So friends, I would like to introduce you to a person who's also been a mentor to me. Mr. Anish Anthony. I met him 6-7 months back, and there is so much that I've learned from him. Mr. Anish has been a founding member for MyGate. He is the Chief Delivery Officer for T-Hub, and he has also served our nation, our country for a long period of time. Mr. Anish Anthony.
So, thanks Niyesh, thanks for the intro, but यार mentor तो हूँ नहीं मैं. In fact, I've learned a lot of stuff from you during our interactions, especially when it comes about money management and stuff.
I've learned a lot of things other than money from you, definitely.
Yeah. So, I think it's great to be a part of T-Hub now and interacting with a lot of startups like you. I get to learn a lot about what is going on out there in the innovation ecosystem, right? But before I came here, right now I'm the Chief Delivery Officer, which essentially means that a lot of programs, projects, initiatives, operations, all of that roll into me. That is one piece on how I can deliver value to our startups. Before this, I was in MyGate, yes. That was an amazing learning experience. I had 4 amazing co-founders, right, and who I have again looked up to and learned a lot from. So my journey of MyGate has been one of learning about startups, learning about business, learning about sales, marketing, ADM, HR, legal, finance, tech, and all of that pieces. So it's been a great learning experience. And before that, I was in the Air Force for almost 20 years as a helicopter pilot. So that was again one of learning of, hard work, discipline, show up for work, dedicatedly every day, every time. So that is, I think, something that I brought from there. So hopefully I've learned some stuff from there, learned some stuff from MyGate. And today I'm learning a lot from startups which are there in T-Hub, and also sharing some amount of my experiences so that they don't make their own mistakes and learn those lessons. So I think if that is what you call mentorship, then mentorship.
Well, that is what we call as mentorship. And since the time I've been associated with Mr. Anish, he's been pin drop on his timing. हमने कम से कम 10-15 मीटिंग्स करी होंगी अभी तक.
हाँ.
And he has been there on dot. अगर उनको 2 बजे का टाइम दिया है, he's there. So there are very few people who value money as time. और आपने अगर एक चीज सुनी है उनके कॉन्वर्सेशन में, जो उन्होंने शायद गलती से बोल दिया, बट शायद उनके दिल में था, माई स्टार्टअप. सो उनकी जो फीलिंग है हमारे T-Hub इकोसिस्टम के लिए, इट्स लाइक अ वेरी अटैच्ड, लाइक अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग बॉन्डिंग कि यार ये मेरे हैं, ये मेरे लोग हैं, ये मुझे इनके लिए कुछ करना है. इट्स नॉट आर, इट्स माई स्टार्टअप्स. So that itself is about Mr. Anish. Is there anything which you've come across in the initial years which was quite a challenge about money, which you didn't know how to resolve, and someone was there to support you on that? A mentor or a guide? Like, you are a mentor for many today. You mentored so many startups, you helped so many startups get funded, promote them, go to the next level. Similarly, was there someone in your life who came out?
I sort of belong to that kind of a generation where finances were not very well talked about, right? Were not talked about because there was not many people who could teach you. Institutionally also, it was never taught in schools. It was never talked about openly. And anybody who talks about money was supposed to be money-minded, which was not a very positive thing.
Yeah, it was
Today,
quite an evil.
Yeah,
people used to think ये पैसे के बारे में इतना बात.
हाँ, तो ये बहुत money-minded है.
इससे दूर रहो.
इससे दूर, that kind of a thing, So, unfortunately, we came from that kind of a generation where there were not too many elders or seniors who talked about money, leave alone helping us understand the mechanics of money, right? How time and money are interrelated, right? And how you can utilize time to make more money, right? Those pieces, I think nobody taught us in the initial phases. But I think there were a few experiences in life because of which I understood the value of it. And then I went along the hard way of trying to identify content. In those days, content was not available. There was no word called content, right? I'm talking about 2000, 2002, 2003, 2004. That is when I just started earning. In 98, I joined the Indian Air Force and I started earning. And money management was never talked about. But there were a few personal instances which happened in my family which taught me the value of money. There were some medical emergencies which came up, which required a disproportionate amount of money to be spent. right? While we were lucky enough to get through that, another incidents in quick succession would have finished us, right? And we would have lost the person, right? So I think that is when I said, see, okay, I mean, thankfully we got away without no damage done and with a lesson learned that money is something, it might not be everything in life, but it is a very close second best.
Very true, you know.
And that needs to be learned how to manage it, right? So that's when I started picking up and reading a lot about Warren Buffett's method of investment, which is like fundamental analysis, long-term technical analysis, financial analysis. I tutored myself by reading on how to read balance sheets, how to read profit loss statements, how to go through annual reports, and then find out value in those companies, the intrinsic value that Benjamin Graham also keeps talking about, right? Find out that intrinsic value of a company. If it is less, then invest in it. If it is more, then wait for it. It'll come back to its intrinsic value at a certain point of time, and then keep investing in that. So I think that those lessons early in life taught me to upskill myself. There was nobody to teach us because we came from predominant middle class to a lower middle class family where everybody were like the service class, which is like get a job, find a job. People did not even know the difference between saving and investing, right? So let alone know about the mechanics of money. A lot of it came from reading. A lot of it came thanks to Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. I used to watch a lot of Money Control. If I'm Money Control, I'm not sure Money Control or Shimaru. Somebody released a set of CDs of investors. I think Dalal Street released, I think. A set of 5 CDs where all of Ramesh Damani, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, Ramdev Agarwal, there was a lot of series of all of these guys talking about stock markets, about investing, about long term. I think that sort of kicked in me a sense of investing in money and management and time and so on. So then at that point of time, I set myself a target कि चलो 40 पे रिटायर होते हैं. हुआ नहीं. पर at least ये तो हालत नहीं हुआ कि मैं scrounging for the basics. इतना तो नहीं है. Hopefully that sort of set me up for the later part of my life, the second half of my life.
No, I see that, since Wealth Munshi manages a portfolio of yours, and we see you've done well for yourself. Having 2 mentors in Mr. Warren Buffett and Mr. Graham.
नहीं वो तो एकलव्य वाला स्टोरी हो गया ना. तो हमारे तरफ से वो गुरु है, वो हमारे गुरु नहीं है. I know him but he doesn't know me.
You made someone, but see, initial years, if you have someone as an idol and you look up to him, उनको आप देखते हैं कि वो क्या कर रहे हैं और what he is doing, वो क्या चीज़ suggest कर रहे हैं, that itself was enough. क्योंकि उस टाइम पे आज की तारीख में जितनी इन्फॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल है, आई थिंक दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम जो आपने इन्फॉर्मेशन गैदर करी है, दैट इटसेल्फ वाज अ लॉट ऑफ इन्फॉर्मेशन टू हैव.
या सो ट्रू.
एंड आई अंडरस्टैंड, जैसे आपने बताया कि देयर वर सम कंटिजेंसी इश्यूज. टुडे हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस हैज बिकम सो प्रोमिनेंट in everybody's life. It plays a very important role. So contingency fund is well taken care of. So ऐसी कोई 2 चीज़ जो आपको लगती है you would advise today's startups which they should definitely do, especially when it comes to their money, what would those two things be?
Money as in their personal money or with the startups money?
So it could be the personal money for founders. At the same point of time, for a startup fund which they have, it could be the money they manage, or if they get funded. In fact, मैंने पढ़ रहा था कहीं आर्टिकल, उसमें लिखा था कि lot of people who have won jackpots और कौन बनेगा करोड़पति जिनको पैसे मिले हैं, over a period of time, all of them turn out to be paupers.
True.
Because उनको मालूम नहीं था कि कैसे पैसे मैनेज किए जाएं.
Yeah.
So आपका for these startups, what would be the 2 advice related to money for them?
See, I think cover the personal piece first, right? A lot of startups founders, right? You must have heard a lot of these stories of people telling कि यार मैंने घर गिरवी रख दिया, मेरे को खाने के लिए मेरे पैसे नहीं थे, See, you owe a responsibility to your family also, right? I think you should not be getting into a situation where you're putting their basic requirements into jeopardy, right? I think one should not be too flamboyant in as such that you put their current and their future into jeopardy. Ghar girvi rakh diya, startup mein dal diya, and then startup doesn't work out, right? You have a right to do what you want to do with your career, right? but don't jeopardize the education of the next generation or the basics or the fundamentals of your family, right? So one is I'd caution startup founders to have that in mind, to compartmentalize as much as possible. Personal wealth has to take care of your familial personal requirements, right? That long term should not get compromised. What is left has to be, now that comes into, if you want to invest in your startup, you're actually investing in your startup. How I see it is, I have got X amount of personal wealth. Now I have to take out some amount of personal wealth and invest it in my own startup. Now that is a part of my portfolio, right? My portfolio could have equity, could have debt, could have mutual funds, right? Could be VC funding also. And there is a part of it which is going into my startup, which is an investment that I'm making into my startup, right? Now, but not at the cost of, it could be at the cost of your debt portfolio, part of your debt portfolio. It could be at the cost of your part of your equity portfolio, but it should not be a part of the fundamental obligations that you have towards your family. So wo thoda sa people have to be very, very sure about that.
Founders, very important and very rightly, presented by Anisa, that you have to make sure that you demarcate the kind of money you want to take home. Because ultimately, you're also working to create wealth. You have to run your house. You have to run your family. You have to make sure कि आप घर कुछ पैसा लेके जा रहे हैं. I come across with many startups and many founders जो पैसा कमाते हैं and end of the day कुछ घर नहीं लेके जाते, right? You have to make sure कि आप डिमार्क करें कि इतना पैसा आपका घर चलता है. That's what Wealth Munshi does. Wealth Munshi does a very interesting cash flow analysis. Anish ji, आप जानते हैं.
Yeah, you've done it for me. So.
Right, so आपके लिए किया हुआ है. It gives you a very clear cut idea, meticulously कि आपका स्टार्टअप का कितना खर्चा है, आपका हर महीने कितनी सैलरीज जा रही हैं, आपका रेंट कितना जा रहा है, and how much is the surplus which you are left. You have to make sure कि आपका जो surplus है, initially as I understand, because मैं खुद एक स्टार्टअप चलाता हूँ और मैं जानता हूँ कि initially is difficult, but over a period of time you have to make sure कि आप कुछ पैसा घर लेके जाएं. It could be a period of maybe 6 months, 1 year or 2 years. Start small, no problems, but build over it. Am I right, Anish?
Yeah, absolutely. If let's assume your kid is in 10th class, right? अभी आपके पास उसके फीस भरने के पैसे नहीं है. So you're compromising on putting him in a lower standard of school that you have wanted to, right? वो 2 साल उसका 10th class exam वापस नहीं आने वाला है ना. तो आपको उसका 10th क्लास का एजुकेशन का परफॉर्मेंस को कॉम्प्रोमाइज करने का कोई हक नहीं है आपको.
और भी मैंने एक चीज नोटिस करी नहीं जी कि लॉट ऑफ पीपल इवन पर्सनल मनी वो सेव नहीं करते हैं. सो इन्वेस्टमेंट्स में क्या होता है कि लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स आई हैव नोटिस दैट किड्स आर कॉम्प्रोमाइजिंग ऑन एजुकेशन ड्यू टू कॉस्ट. द पेरेंट्स आर एट होम, दे आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन बिकॉज दे हैव नेवर प्लान्ड फॉर अ रिटायरमेंट फंड. उन्होंने कभी ये सोचा नहीं है. लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स पेरेंट्स, जैसे आपने बताया कि लाइफ एक मेडिकल कंटिजेंसी हुई है, व्हेन यू गो एट अ सर्टेन एज, उसके बाद में टुडे इवन हैविंग अ हेल्थ कवर फॉर योरसेल्फ बिकम्स वेरी चैलेंजिंग.
यार बहुत सिंपल है, राइट? माय डैड यूज्ड टू टेल अस थिंग, राइट? पढ़ाई, खिलाई और दवाई, इन तीनों में कभी कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं करना चाहिए, राइट?
बिल्कुल.
एजुकेशन, न्यूट्रिशन एंड मेडिसिन, right? Like you were mentioning about healthcare, medical care, medical insurance. इन तीनों में कभी ऐसे कभी नहीं होना चाहिए सिचुएशन कि आपको इन तीनों में कॉम्प्रोमाइज करना पड़े. बाकी सब चलता रहेगा बिकॉज मोमेंट दीज 3 आर लाइक, इफ यू आर हेल्दी, इफ यू आर वेल न्यूट्रिशन एंड इफ यू आर यू आर ईटिंग वेल, यू आर टेकिंग केयर ऑफ वेल, आपने एजुकेशन आपकी सही है आपको, राइट? तो एंड आपको कुछ ज़्यादा मतलब एवरीथिंग एल्स विल गेट सॉर्टेड आउट.
जब आप मेंटोर करते हैं स्टार्टअप्स को और फाउंडर्स को, तो आपको क्या लगता है कि वो ज़्यादातर ऐसी क्या मिस्टेक्स करते हैं जो उनको नहीं करनी चाहिए पैसे को लेकर?
Startups and founders start building too early. What do I mean by that? I think if I have to give you a personal example of MyGate, right? I was just one of the initial founding team of MyGate. I mean, I had a great set of co-founders and I learned a lot from them, right? And I had that advantage. Why do I say so? There were 4 other co-founders, right? All of them, in fact, I was at the receiving end of knowledge when it comes to when MyGate was being founded. one was from IIT Kanpur, IIM Ahmedabad, worked at Goldman Sachs for 15-20 years, right? Somebody had worked as a product head at Oracle, IIT Guwahati, ISB, product head at Oracle, right? Somebody was a senior vice president in Bank of America, last person worked for 20 years in security. So जब हम टेबल पे बैठते थे हम लोग 80-100 साल का एक्सपीरियंस होता था टेबल पे, एंड वी आइडिएटेड, एंड दिस काइंड ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस फुल टाइम जॉब छोड़ के हमने आइडिएट किया था ऑलमोस्ट फॉर 4 to 5 months बिफोर वी स्टार्टेड बिल्डिंग, राइट? Before we incorporated the company.
And today, everyone, MyGate is one of the most successful app used in most of the gated companies.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
मुझे एक और चीज़ याद आई आपके बोलने से कि स्टीव जॉब्स ने एक बार कहा था ये कि हायर पीपल हु आर स्मार्टर देन यू एंड दे विल टेल यू व्हाट टू डू.
Yeah.
सो जैसे आपने बताया कि हैव गुड को-फाउंडर्स.
Yeah, in fact, I was sort of more of, to set the record straight, I was sort of more of piggybacking them because they had a lot of industry relevance, right? So what I was trying to build is that is a kind of ideation that is required before you start putting your money inside, right? Think it through. Think all possibilities through. To get from multiple dimensions, right? Validate your idea, your product that you're going to build, your market, your unit economics, everything. I mean, you should have a really very clear idea of what the next 1.5-2 years is going to look like. Many people will advise you, yeah, even if it is around 20-30%, jump in, rest you'll figure it along the way. Yes, that is one way of going at it, right? Because along the way you'll start off figuring it out. My belief is that you need to really ideate the hell out of it, right? And keep changing your narrative. Right? But at least
Keep
improvising, keep refining, keep improvising, depending on what inputs that you get after that. When you ideate like that, what happens is that you've thought about 1,000 probabilities, right? So when something doesn't work, right, you have another 20-30 angles that you already thought about and say, okay, maybe this will work, maybe this will work, maybe this will work, right? So my first advice would be, as far as their money is concerned, please make sure that you ideate it adequately. Don't over ideate or under ideate. Ideate adequately before you start putting your money into your startup or start investing. जो bootstrap का जो पैसा आप डाल रहे हो अपने pocket में से, start investing in that after you've thought through the whole piece. The second piece is, अभी startup investing में syllabus बदल चुका है, right? People are looking at first at the bottom line and then looking at the top line, right?
True.
So if you don't have a road to profitability, right, then at least you need to figure it out how you're going to get there and when you're going to get there, right? And pace out your financials accordingly. उसमें figuring out थोड़ा सा dicey हो जाता है, right? How much of runway do you have left at any point of time? You should be really very sure on how much runway you have that. If you say that, let me just burn and learn, बहुत सारे आपको idioms मिलेंगे ना, burn and learn, ना, burn fast, learn fast, right? काफी सारे हैं, and they might be applicable from time to time in certain cases, right? I'm not saying they're not applicable in all cases, right? But you should exercise a lot of caution when you're following that model. That is what I'm trying to say. Think it through. Burn fast, learn fast है, अगर आपके पास बहुत ज़्यादा पैसे हैं, and if you're funded, let's assume you're funded in the ideation stage itself, right? Then you have the luxury of burn fast, learn fast, burn and learn. All of those idioms might make a bit of sense till you know that I've got a roadmap enough, right? मेरे को I need $1 million from my product market fit से लेके आगे तक मेरे को $1 million चाहिए, right? उससे पहले मैं burn fast, learn fast करना चाहता हूँ मैं. आपके पास $2 million है, $1 million burn fast, learn fast करो आप. आपके पास बफर है आपके पास. बट अगर पास नहीं है, आप बूटस्ट्रैप्ड हो, 100,000 200,000 आप लेके मार्केट में आप उतरे हो कुछ करने के लिए, समथिंग न्यू. एसेंशियली व्हाट आर स्टार्टअप्स? they're doing something that has not been done before, right?
Innovative, something which is new.
Innovative,
not been
right?
there.
Nothing not been done before, something that is new, right? So nobody else has figured it out as yet, and you don't have an existing template to figure it out, right? So usme you need to be very careful. If you're having $200,000, you should be really sure about where you're going to spend those 200,000, right? And how much of burn fast, learn fast can you afford? And then draw that line, and then say, boss, I'm not learning fast enough, or I'm burning too fast and not learning too fast enough. तो वो वाला एक सेंस चेक आपको हमेशा रहना चाहिए.
True. So founders and startups, please make sure to have these points implemented. Ideation, very, very important. And secondly is don't burn faster than you can earn. Am I right, Anishji?
Yeah, maintain the balance.
We have to maintain that balance. It could be personal life, life and health, or in your professional life, wealth and your regular expenses. At Wealth Munshi, we have a very nice format where whatever money you earn on a monthly basis, we accumulate that. क्योंकि आपके current account में आपको कोई पैसा नहीं मिलता. There's a 0% interest if you put your money in a current account. We invest it. We make sure we have a systematic withdrawal plan which takes care of your overheads, and over a period of time you become an auto paid company. That means you don't have to worry for your every monthly expense. And whatever funding a lot of people get, most of the time, जैसे हमने आपको बताया कि जब आपको जैकपॉट मिलता है, काफ़ी लोगों को मालूम नहीं पड़ता है पैसे कैसे मैनेज किए जाएं. We also help you invest that fund in a proper asset allocation for a short, medium, long-term goal as and as you need that money for your progress. That also helps you invest, make that money grow, and make sure you don't burn it, without having a great amount of understanding how the money is going to go. It should also help the startups and the, founders here. Sir, any suggestions you feel that you would like to give to all the founders, who are basically having a kind of an option to exit out from their company? Do you think they should look at exit as an option, or they should treat it like a baby कि भाई इसको बढ़ाओ and unicorn बनाओ and make it? Because I have come across companies like Zerodha. They are completely उसमें जो है पैसा उनका खुद का लगा हुआ है. On the other hand, there are companies like ShopClose and others who exited, become a unicorn, made the money. What do you think should be the idea of a founder? Do you think they should exit, or they should hold and make it grow and bigger? And what should be their?
It depends on two things here. One is the founder himself, right? And second is what is the model that you're working on. There are a lot of people who they start off with thinking that I'm going to sell this business, right? Because I am creating something which is very, very valuable or extremely valuable for somebody else as a commodity. The kind of data you possessed could be a commodity, right? Or the user base that you have could be a commodity. So that is more like a commoditizing your startup. And you start with the premise that it's a commodity that I'm at a certain point of time going to sell off, right? There are certain other people who build for a cause, right? Then you need to sort of figure out where do you want to be in that journey. And there is no good or bad, right? It is just business model. Don't take it personal. Don't make it emotional, right? It's entirely a business decision. You are wanting to continue with it, or you're wanting to sell it off, should be a business decision rather than a personal decision, is what I feel, right? That is how I feel. Like I said, it's both. It's a personal how you look at it, and also it is a business decision. Does it make sense or not, right? You have a commodity which you are not able to monetize, but it is definitely monetizable by some other business model, right? So it's a win-win for both of you if you sell it and move on, right? Second piece is you have a business model, you have a startup which you are not very sure, which you are sure that nobody else can, maybe nobody else understands it as well as you understand it, right? And then you figure out how you want to run it profitably, right? So that is the second aspect. The third aspect, another option that is there, is that you find out somebody who can run your business. You're still the business owner, find a good CEO, right? Who will run it? You don't need to, you neither need to sell it, nor you need to be married to it, right? You find a CEO who will run it for you profitably as a business. I think that is the third model. That is the third strategy that you can opt for. Or finally, you see it like a service industry, right? Boss, I'm giving a service to somebody and making money, and I'm unit economics में मेरे को 30% बन रहा है. चलाते रहो उसको. Make it a generational business where आपके बाद next generation will run it, and that is pure business, right? Where you're creating value for somebody else and you're charging them for that value. So keep running it that way. So I think multiple models are there on how you want to run a business. It depends on the business and it depends on the individual's choice. Many startup founders want to move on because they want to create something new, right? The joy of creating is different, right? Some people are very retail oriented. They love to run businesses.
Right, we have noticed that.
Right? They run businesses, right? and then scale it up. But they're not creating anything new. They just they're growing laterally at scale. Right? Some other people creating something new and getting up 0 to 4 is like a big thrill for them. तो वो लोग 0 to 4 में उसको मजा आता है. तो 4 बनाने के बाद में CEO ले आएगा और बोलेगा तू उसको स्केल कर ले. And let me create again a 0 to 4. तो वो creators हैं. So it depends on what kind of a person that you are. Some people want a 4 and then they will take it to 8. They don't have neither the appetite, which is a risk appetite, or the ability, the creative ability or the entrepreneurial ability to take it from scratch to 4. तो वो बोलते भाई मेरे को 4 पे दे दे, मैं चला दूंगा उसको 8 तक ले आऊंगा मैं.
बिल्कुल.
कोई वाला बोलता है यार 0 to 4 के बाद में मेरे को यार इंटरेस्ट चले आता है, because I'm not creating at that pace that I want.
That value proposition.
हाँ, I'm not creating at the pace that I want to. 0 to 4 is very, very exciting. If you ask me also, right?
Right.
Why I'm in T-Hub today is because I see 1,000 of you guys getting into that 0 to 4 phase.
Very true.
Right? So it depends on each one to their own.
So 3 things, founders, which all of you should know is either sell, make that money, make it grow, or third is have a quasi CEO and get the royalty paid which you build, which you work for over a period of time. Ani ji, abhi aapne jaise bola ki we have put in some value proposition. What do you think after associating with Wealth Munshi has had and been an eye opener for you? कोई ऐसी चीज आपको लगा यार ये अच्छी चीज थी जो मुझे मालूम नहीं था, या मुझे ऐसी चीज थी कि यार मुझे ये पता चला तो मुझे अच्छा लगा, you know, something which was unique.
The most unique thing was, I think it sort of collates all your investments into one place, right? So you get like a bird's eye view of everything that you have, right? The platform has the ability to do that, right? Your reports have the ability to do that, to give you like an overview. It could be an exhaustive overview, or it could be you choose now. You want a summary, you want an exhaustive review, whatever. So it collates and puts all of that into one place. And the platform seems to be having the ability to do that. It is my inability. I have not spent too much time on the platform.
At times, always constrained with Anish ji.
No, but I think at a certain extent, the platform has the ability to be able to do that. As I keep exploring more, maybe I'll explore a lot more, but it's really early stages for me as well. And that is one thing that I like, right? And secondly is the representation of way forward, right? Which means drawing those trend lines, saying that if you continue at this pace, this is what will happen.
Futuristic approach.
Yeah, the visibility of how this is a trend that you are trending, and this is how 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years is going to look like, considering these parameters. For a person's personal wealth, I think that is again very exciting. The way you represent it is simplistic yet informative. I think these are the 2 words that I will sort of use. I just need to follow a graph and see, अच्छा यहाँ जाने वाला है ये, और plus में है कि minus में पता चल जाता है. And then I have the ability to now play around with that, right? I want to साधु बनना है मेरे को 5 साल में, right? या फिर मेरे को कैसानोवा बनना है, प्लेबॉय बनना है 5 साल में. प्लेबॉय बनूंगा तो मैं इतने साल बचेगा मेरे पास, और साधु बनेगा तो इतने साल बचेगा मेरे पास. I have the ability to like tweak around and play around that, and put all of those scenarios, put all of those things into place and see how the model works out.
So all the founders, if you also want to get a bird's eye view of entire finances at one place, do let us know. We'll be very happy to help you on that. Something which very important I would like to share is that it took us practically 6 months time to get this data collated and put at one place. We still believe that there is still more to be done, Anish, right?
Yeah.
And I think we can do better over a period of
time. Yeah, it's a journey. I think it's finally at the end of the day, if somebody is signing up with you, I think they're signing up for a journey, right? It's not like onboard karke the relationship does not end there, because there will be variances in personal finance. There'll be ups, there'll be downs, especially if you're dealing with founders का ups and downs तो
बिल्कुल
they live on ups and downs,
right?
जो down जब up में होता है the thrill, and down में होता है तो फटता है, तो मतलब they live on that kind of a imbalance, right? But having said that, Wealth Munshi should be able to travel along with them in that entire journey, and then give them the right advice at the right time, the right projections at the right time. आपके financial modeling में इतना tweak करोगे तो ये दिखता है, right? So I can actually afford to pull out some money from my personal and put it into my startup, right? Or you hit the red line, you pull out more money and your personal finances are going to get compromised. That data-based जो decision making होता है, the platform is sort of will be able to help out people with that perspective.
So, we've been working with many founders, and most of the founders we worked with over a period of 3 years. The first 3 years बहुत difficult होते हैं because you build, you burn, there's a lot of things. हमने एक पिक्चर देखी थी रॉकेट सिंह, उसके अंदर रणबीर कपूर का एक डायलॉग होता है कि आपका ब्रेकफास्ट लंच बन जाता है और लंच डिनर, वो ऐसी हालत हो जाती है. एंड इट्स द टाइम वेयर लॉट ऑफ अस स्ट्रगल. आई ऑल्सो बीइंग अ फाउंडर, मैंने देखा है ये कि एक टाइम था जब मैं खुद पर्सनल मीटिंग के लिए जाता था एंड क्लाइंट टीम मिलता था, बस में जाता था. आई ट्रैवल्ड इन बाइक्स from here to Bhadurpalli and we got to know, and we didn't used to get places to sit. हमको सिक्योरिटी के कैबिन में बैठ करके डिस्कशंस करना. It's been a very tough journey, but by the grace of God today I have a very very nice team. वो टीम मुझे अच्छा सपोर्ट करती. तो आपकी टीम, जैसे अभी अनिल जी ने बताया, आपके को फाउंडर्स, ये आपके लिए एक हीरा है. ये अगर आपको साथ दें सो आप दुनिया में कोई भी चीज़ अचीव कर सकते हैं. अनिल जी, am I right?
Yeah, I think it's in fact more than us is about the team. आप जितना भी आप ideation कर लो, strategy बना लो, right? At the end of the day, execution तो team members को ही करना है,
बिल्कुल,
right? If they're not, like I very often say, right, कि in the graveyard of execution, you will find many a tombstone of strategy. सारे strategy आके execution में दफन हो जाते हैं.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सही.
तो अगर आपने आपके साथ टीम नहीं है तो चाहे जो भी बना लो आप एग्जीक्यूट नहीं कर पाओगे.
बिल्कुल.
तो आई थिंक लाइक यू राइटली मेंशन, एज अ स्टार्टअप फाउंडर्स, आई थिंक वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट बैंडविड्थ ऑफ योर्स, यू शुड बी केटरिंग फॉर टीम बिल्डिंग, getting the right culture, getting the right kind of people who are bought into the vision, people who believe what you believe in. I think those are key aspects when you are sort of building a team, right? And you will find people. I mean, you will find people coming for the cause. And those are the people who will probably deliver exponential performance for you in your journey.
So, हम भी यही देखते हैं all the founders and startups कि हम लोग जब टीम को ज्वाइन कराएं, हम ये देखते हैं क्या ये व्यक्ति, क्या this person has a potential to be a kind of a equity holder with Wealth Munshi over a period of time, of co-founder. क्या ये व्यक्ति हमारे साथ ये जर्नी आगे तक लेके जा सकते हैं? It's very important. Aniji is now been a part of T-Hub for 3 years now.
So initially, so MyGate had a Hyderabad office based out of T-Hub, and that's from 2018 onwards. So essentially, since 2018, for the past 5 years, we've sort of been associated with T-Hub. But full time, I moved into T-Hub about a year ago. Last July, August is what I moved.
So how's your journey been with all the founders, the startups, you yourself being a founder of MyGate? How do you think, आपको कैसा लग रहा है अभी overall journey, and what do you see is the future of wealth tech and fintechs?
One is the journey has been really exciting. I think there is a lot more left to build here. I think while the world celebrates us as the world's largest innovation campus, twice over we have won India's Best Incubator Award. While the world celebrates all of that, I believe that considering the ecosystem outside, I think we are like a 2.5 or a 3 out of 10. There is a lot more value
I think
that we can.
5 is too. And I
नहीं, थोड़ा aspirational होना चाहिए ना.
बिल्कुल agree नहीं करता अनिल जी के साथ. इतनी activities हैं for all the T-Hub people or who are kind looking forward to associate with T-Hub. Me being a founder and operating out of T-Hub, let me tell you, I would rate at least 6 to 7 out of 10. 2.5, 3 तो बहुत कम है. Because the kind of value addition T-Hub does for all the mentors. I have seen Mr. Anish and our CEO Mr. MSR and Mr. Srinivas Rao Taluka themselves doing so much of hard work for mentoring us, for getting in lot of alignments. जो मुझे लगता है कि और शायद ecosystem किसी और commercial space में, हैदराबाद में क्या इंडिया में नहीं होगा. You go to the best of the buildings, the kind of ecosystem we try to build. आज ही, we had a meeting of all the 250 founders who are operating out of T-Hub, एंड इट वाज सच एन एक्साइटिंग मीटिंग कि हमको काफ़ी सारे लोगों की ऐसी चीज़ मालूम पड़ी जो वो करते हैं, हमारे उसमें फ़ायदा या एक एक कोऑर्डिनेशन या एक कोलैबोरेशन हो सकता है.
We are not competing with anybody, right? We are probably trying to work to a higher order of standard which we have set for ourselves, right? If I have to look at it from one perspective, right, I think this is how we are trying to define ourselves, right? कि अभी हम लोग 2,500 स्टार्टअप के साथ काम करते हैं, around 2,500 startups, right? Yes, we provide a lot of value add to the startups who we are engaging with, right? It could be mentorship, it could be value partners, it could be funding desk, it could be, multiple things is what we sort of go after. But essentially, if you look at it, where are we heading towards T-Hub, right? We have got 2,500 startups now. What we want to do is, maybe we can engage with, at one dimension, we're looking at 3 dimensions. The first dimension is, can I engage with 20,000 startups, right? First, that is the first dimension. Second dimension is, how much of a granular support that I can provide for my startups. मतलब आपके सेल्स पिच स्लाइड नंबर 7 में आपने टोटल एड्रेसेबल मार्केट आपको डिफाइन करना है, तो क्या आपको मैं उसमें मदद कर सकता हूँ, डिपेंडिंग ऑन द स्टार्टअप दैट यू आर. सेक्टर वेक्टर तो छोड़ दो आप, मतलब फ्रॉम दैट लेवल ऑफ ग्रैनुलरिटी इज व्हाट वी वांट. द थर्ड पीस व्हाट वी वांट इज टाइम, व्हिच इज 15 मिनट्स टर्न अराउंड टाइम में कैसे कर सकता हूँ. तो इफ आई कैन एंगेज विद 20,000 स्टार्टअप्स with that level of granularity and with a turnaround time of 15 minutes, if I can build for that kind of for organization, I think that is like a 7.5 or a 8 out of 10.
Now, that's an amazing number. This is for the entire India, not only for startups working with the T-Hub. 20,000 is a remarkable number to work on. It's like a 10x from right now.
Yeah, it's an aspiration, but I think unless we build out this piece, right, and solve for scale at that level, right, फिर तो क्या किया यार.
नहीं, ये तो बहुत ही एस्पिरेशनल है. मुझे लगता है ये वर्केबल है. द काइंड ऑफ एफर्ट्स एवरीबडी इज पुटिंग, ये दिस इज समथिंग विच आई सी. 10,000 तो मुझे लगता है कि अगले 1 साल तक हो जाएगा, मार्च 2000.
नहीं, इतना भी नहीं. I think maybe it'll take us a couple of years to get to 10,000. But what we want to do is, we don't want to have a startup on our database and then not engage with them. When we say work with 20,000 startups is monthly कम से कम एक engagement होना चाहिए उनके साथ, right? At least that call of saying, hey, what can I do for you, right? At least that know him that I've got all of this and please feel free to tap into what I've got, right? I think that would be like an active startup definition for us, right? And we want to be doing at least that level.
So any startup out of India, not only Hyderabad, looking for mentorship, guidance, या ये देखना चाहते हैं कि where you want to be as a value proposition added by the people around here, you know whom to approach. T-Hub is the place where you should be coming to make sure that your startup is a unicorn. I'm sure we'll be producing many more unicorns down the line.
Hopefully we should be. Yeah.
We should. One more thing which I wanted to share with you. Today T-Hub Hyderabad, not only in Hyderabad, is also helping establish similar kind of ecosystems all over the world. I recently heard, Anish ji, aap Maldives gaye the. Am I right?
Yeah.
And that was basically to set up an ecosystem similar to T-Hub there. Please share some, experience about where are we setting up all these kind of ecosystems and what are the...
So, fundamentally, this is what we have realized, right? Over the past 7 years, we sort of know, we have the playbook of how to run a profitable or a revenue surplus incubator. This is a very different thing. Today, if you take out external support for any incubator, I'm not talking about co-working spaces, वो अलग है. Incubator की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. They would probably die, right? So what we are doing is that we are sort of building out an operating system for incubators, right? So your laptop is only as good as the operating system that is there on it. वरना तो वो shell है वो.
बिल्कुल.
Right? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to build out that operating system for anybody who wants to run an incubator. Now, these could be, we are helping up certain state governments to run out their state incubators, which is like we're helping Bihar government run out their B-Hub, which is there, right? We are working with other state governments also to help them run out their incubators. So similarly, in Maldives, we are helping them to build out their national incubator, which is out of Malé. So that is what we're trying to do. So we are helping build out, we are hoping to be the operating system for incubators so that they can learn from our lessons, our mistakes, and our processes, and nourish and flourish multiple startups within their area of influence. And that is something that we are trying to build out.
Nice. So all the startups across the world, not only in India now, we are global. Probably if anyone wants to associate, be a part of how to get into it. Last question, Anish ji, is there anything which you would like to tell to all our founders and our startups, that one thing which comes to your mind about T-Hub and one thing which you believe Wealth Munshi is all about?
So two things. I think one is for the startups and founders, the journey is definitely difficult, right? First. The secondly, the journey is definitely unique. Template नहीं है किसी का, Niyesh ji. No matter which course you do from anywhere, like it's like this, building a successful startup is like this jigsaw puzzle, right? You don't know how many pieces are there, you don't know the shapes of those pieces, and you don't know the size of the pieces. Sub variable hai. And now you are trying to build out the picture. So you can imagine how challenging it is. This shape, it is amorphous. वो shape बदलते रहता है, वो size बदलते रहता है, और आपको ये भी पता नहीं कि कितने pieces हैं उसमें.
बिल्कुल.
So that is what the building out a startup looks like when you're starting off, right? So it is definitely going to be very difficult. But having said that, people have figured it out. It's not that people have not figured it out. People have figured it out. Pale startup may might not be successful, but definitely you will at least solve for figuring out maybe how many pieces are there in building out a successful startup, right? The second startup that you do probably, right, you will figure out ki shapes kaisa hai, right? So, and you might be very, very brilliant. I think you might be brilliant at figuring out all the elements in the first startup itself. Definitely there are people who have done that as well, right? But having said that, I think you should keep the faith and look at it from this perspective, saying everything is going to be dynamic, everything is going to be amorphous, everything is going to be very, very, very radical, right?
And especially the way the overall things are changing with AI, ML and everything. It's become so dynamic कि हर 2 महीने में there is something which is new coming up.
Yeah. So I totally believe that the half-life of technology today is 8 months. So what is relevant today, 8 months later is going to be half as relevant. Another 16 months later is going to be 1/4 as relevant, and in 2 years is going to be irrelevant, 1/8 as relevant or whatever it is. So अगर आपने whatever you're building for, right? I think you should be catering for this kind of dynamic changes when you're building. The process of building itself has to be dynamic, that it caters for all of these pieces, right? So if you think that my product is going to come out after 16 months or a year or so, you might turn out to be only half as relevant or something from where you started. I mean, if you don't morph along the way, right? It's going to be that. So that's why I said the pieces का shapes भी change हो रहा है, right? आपके जो pieces हैं वो भी उसका shape भी change हो रहा है, क्योंकि suddenly a large language model like ChatGPT comes in, right? The whole dynamics has changed now, right? So how will it impact my startup or whatever is my format that I'm working on?
So founders and startups, one more piece of advice from Anish ji is be hungry to innovate. Get into new ideas, keep implementing. ये नहीं कि आपको 2 orders मिल गए, your enterprise model money has come and you made it, or you got your Series A funding and it's all over. It has to be innovative, it has to be upgrading, it has to be improvising. It's a very ongoing process. Thank you so much, Anish ji, for your time, and we really appreciate your valuable inputs, which will not only help Wealth Munshi associate with more founders and startups, but at the same point of time help more founders and startups to make sure they have a good financial freedom journey on their path. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Niyesh. Pleasure being on the show.